So there are reasons to want to change your body. It's a matter of how fast you try to do it. Are you doing it in a healthy way and what your mindset is when you're trying to do it? I mentioned that last week, accepting yourself where you are, because if your mindset is depression and anxiety and hating yourself while trying to change your body for the better, then you may do it the wrong way. You may do it too fast. You may do it in an unhealthy way. So it's a matter of loving yourself throughout the process and cutting yourself some slack. Welcome to Journey to Joy Live, a podcast to promote wellness, resilience, and joy while promoting mental health awareness and breaking down the stigma of mental illness in the Black community. I'm your host, Dr. Enjoy, and I bring you episode 39, When Body Image Leads to Disordered Eating. So I spent a lot of time last week discussing body image, what that looks like, what is body image, and hopefully motivating you on why you should have self-acceptance, self-respect, self-worth, self-compassion, because you are in your body. Everybody's body is different, but we should love ourselves and our body and everything about it because our body is helping get us through life. And anytime we talk about body image, it's always good to talk about eating disorders because a lot of times when a person has body image issues or a false sense of their body image or a distorted sense of their body image, it leads to disordered eating because usually they want to lose weight or gain weight or there's something going on where they want to change their body. So that's why we are just transitioning right into disordered eating. So if you're here listening live, obviously join in with any questions or comments. I love hearing people's comments and what they have to say. So that's always nice. So when it comes time to thinking about body image, disordered eating, dieting, and all that, I mean, when is it a problem? When does it become a problem? When does dieting become disordered? Because it's okay to look at yourself and decide, you know what, I want to make some changes. I want to lose weight. I want to gain some muscle. I want to lose some body fat. I want to cut some calories and I want to do this. I want to exercise more. It's healthy to want to make some changes, especially if you are obese and you need to lose weight in order to reduce your risk to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, strokes, heart attacks. So there are reasons to want to change your body. It's a matter of how fast you try to do it. Are you doing it in a healthy way and what your mindset is when you're trying to do it? I mentioned that last week, accepting yourself where you are, because if your mindset is depression and anxiety and hating yourself while trying to change your body for the better, then you may do it the wrong way. You may do it too fast. You may do it in an unhealthy way. So it's a matter of loving yourself throughout the process and cutting yourself some slack because it's okay. You might look a certain way, or maybe you had a diagnosis of diabetes and diabetes too. There's something that all you got to do is change that lifestyle, but then you're feeling guilty about, oh, I did this to myself, that kind of thing. Rid that guilt. If you need to go to therapy to process that and to get out of your own way, because you're in your own way. If you're over there feeling guilty about it. And of course, I understand that I had gestational diabetes during my first pregnancy and I had a sense of guilt, but they tell us that it really isn't anything the mom has done if you ever have gestational diabetes. In the case of diabetes too, if it has nothing to do with pregnancy, still cut yourself some slack. It's okay. It happened. Just know that it's something that you can change. You just have to change your lifestyle. And that's the thing about dieting is that a lot of people go into a diet where it's brief and maybe it works for the time being, but making sure there's a transition into a healthy lifestyle that you maintain. Because if you do lose that weight after that brief period of dieting, then you go back to the way you used to be eating or cut back on your exercise or whatever you did to lose the weight, then it's just going to come back. and the high cholesterol is going to come back. The high blood pressure is going to come back. All those symptoms, the reason why you wanted to lose weight are going to come back, or the weight's going to come back, and all your successes is gone. So it's really a matter of how you do it. So I'm really going to be going back and forth between healthy thinking and healthy body image and healthy dieting, and when it becomes disordered, when it's a problem, and when you should really seek help for what's going on. Because it is okay to diet when it's a healthy way. So, how can we tell the difference between dieting and disorder eating? I mean, it's pretty complex. There's different factors. It's a matter of what behaviors you're using, where your mindset is, and whether there's an impact on your overall health. So you have to consider all those factors. So if you're having a mindset, I'm dieting and it's temporary. I just want to make the changes to my eating habits, and the goal is to get to a specific weight or body shape. You're real conscious about calorie restriction because you have to reduce your intake and increase your output, right? The calories have to burn off and leave, and reducing what's going in, that's what equals weight loss. And you follow a particular eating plan. No, that's healthy dieting, right? It's temporary. It's you have a goal, and you're pretty much sticking to that plan in that specific way. When it becomes disordered, on the other hand, it's unhealthy preoccupation with food. Your relationship with food is distorted. You hate food. You feel very a lot of anxiety and fear surrounding food, and what kinds of food should go in, and really meticulously looking at the calories, and it's almost an obsession with the weights and with body image, and there's no real goal of, oh, I want to get to this number or this shape or this the amount of pounds. It's a matter of, I wanna look this way. And a lot of people with disorder eating, they go too far and it's unhealthy, and they end up having, cognitive distortions or distorted thoughts about how they look. So their body image, or their image of their own body, is distorted. They look at themselves and they're not seeing exactly how they actually look. They might see a bigger image when actually they look smaller. So then they develop these very, very strict rules and obsessions and anxiety surrounding food and body image. So it's a big difference. For on the one hand, your mindset is, "Oh, you know what? I wanna lose weight." Or, maybe there's some frustration with, "Oh my gosh. Oh, shoot, I let myself go. I'm gained a lot of weight. I got overweight. I'm obese. My BMI is this. The doctor says that." And you're a little like, "Oh, man." But then you're gonna sit down with someone and create a plan, or, look up some real health plans, as opposed to being obsessed or secretive about it and having very strict rules. Sometimes you allow yourself to cheat here and there on that diet, and you're not giving yourself any, you're not upset with yourself because you cheat on your diet. This is the healthy way of doing it versus disorder eating. So if you're somebody that's like, "Oh man, I'm getting really obsessed with counting calories. I'm weighing myself way too much. I'm getting really anxious and distraught about this," then, try to seek help and get some support to see if maybe if it's disorder. It's interesting I say about weighing yourself too much, because how much is too much? A lot of people don't even have a scale. I mentioned last week that my husband and I, we're working on a nice diet plan and have been working on losing weight. We weigh ourselves probably 3 times a day because we're just so excited about losing the weight. Ooh, I lost another pound. Ooh, so it's an exciting thing. But if you're weighing yourself and you're like, oh man, and you're like getting panic attacks and really anxious, and you hate looking in the mirror, you hate the way you look, and it's not fun for you, probably shouldn't be weighing yourself. You probably should look into, is this healthy? Other factors. So that's mindset, right? So behaviors and patterns are a little bit different. So if you're dieting in a healthy way, of course, that's the temporary changes in your eating habits. It's temporary, even though I said earlier, think of a nice healthy plan you can stick to. But usually when you're getting to a point where you want to get to a goal in a healthy way, yeah, there's a phase during the first part of losing where it is maybe some diet that won't be for the rest of your life, but definitely when you get off that diet, there should be a healthy change in the way you eat that's not the same way that got you in the point in the first place, right? So there's that temporary change, but you still go into a new you and a new diet. 'Cause I know I love to eat. My husband says a lot, "Oh, you sure can put it away." And that's from white chicks. I can put it away. I love food and I know I love food. So I'm proud of myself being able to cut out sweets and know who you are. If you're somebody that's all or none, and if you have to cut out everything in the time being, then that's you and that's fine. Cause I know if I were to eat some cheesecake now, it's done. It's a wrap. I'm just gonna keep eating sweets. So know yourself, but it doesn't feel like an obsession for me. I don't get anxiety about it. I don't lose sleep over it. If I gain a pound, it's like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll keep going. I can do it. So that's a matter of how you can tell the difference. It's a matter of where you are. Um, there's no rigid extreme behaviors that can negatively impact your physical and mental well-being as in disordered eating. So that strict calorie counting, you might cut back calories, but are you actually counting them? Like, oh, this has this in it. I can't eat this. And like adding them up and things like that, avoiding certain food groups. Okay, you know what? Avoiding certain food groups, I think, can cross over in both because you can avoid certain food groups in a healthy way of dieting, like I'm avoiding sweets or breads or rice. I mentioned at one point I had seen a nutritionist who said, no bread, rice, pasta, candies, cookies, cakes, and ice cream. That's avoiding a lot of food groups. So I would say that alone isn't disordered eating, but it just depends on your mindset surrounding that. And of course I cheat a little bit. I eat chips and tacos, tortillas. So you might say that's a part of the bread group. Excessive exercise, so exercising 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, exercising to the point where you're not eating, you're not drinking enough, you're feeling faint, lightheaded, you have those physical symptoms. I was gonna get into that earlier, but eating disorders or disordered eating, you may definitely end up with physical symptoms. Eating disorders is very debilitating to your body. It can literally ruin your organs. It can cause heart palpitations when you're malnourished, chest pain, lightheadedness, passing out, muscles wasting away, all sorts of things, and it literally can cause death with disorder eating. So, but anyhow, other strict behaviors would be binge eating. So, eating a whole pizza and then eating a whole steak and then 2 cartons of ice cream. Just trying to think of what binging can look different for different people. If it's a higher level of food and you're having that loss of sense of control, is essentially what binge eating is. So binge eating would try to compensate for the fact that you have purged or fasted or done some type of behavior where you're trying to replace the fact that you ate too much or vomited too much. So excessive exercising, diuretics, laxatives, just being real obsessive about it. Um, Intentional vomiting, those are different behaviors that would be under the disordered eating category. Again, if you are doing this a healthy way, you're not engaging in those kinds of behaviors. So the impact on health, another category as to what plays into the difference between a healthy dieting and disordered eating. So when you do it in a healthy manner, under the guidance of a healthcare professional or some type of support, a trainer, a nutritionist, somebody who's helping you part of a plan, then it supports your overall health and well-being. For disordered eating, you're not paying attention to your overall health and well-being. You're kind of stuck in this one phase of, I got to change my body. I hate my body. I got to do this, I gotta do that. So you're missing that regular nutrition, that balance, the regular physical activity, which I would say, I mean, that varies. When I actually had no attachments, not married, no kids, I hit the gym a couple of hours a day, not every day, but at the very least, I got in an hour. Now I probably get in 30 minutes to an hour, depending on if the babies are asleep versus they're around or versus I'm using my workout as I'm taking them walking for a walk in a stroller and I'm counting that as a workout. So I definitely don't get in a 2-hour workout unless I'm doing a long run. That's true. If I'm training for a half marathon, I do a long run. That's obviously 2 hours. But with the healthy eating, it's a sustainable lifestyle change. It's something that's gonna last, once you get past that initial phase where you might be dieting differently and you get back into that sustainable, healthy lifestyle. So with disordered eating, you see serious consequences because there's no guidance there. There's just your distorted thinking about your body image and which affects your mental health, and therefore the nutrient deficiencies, the vitamins are low, there's imbalances in your electrolytes. So you got metabolic disturbances, which is what leads to heart palpitations, arrhythmias. So it's affecting your heart, even impaired immune function. You're not eating well, you're going to get sick very easily. And that definitely increases your risk to eating disorders, like anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating disorders. So there's psychological factors that are behind each. With dieting in a healthy way, it leads to temporary feelings of success. Like, ooh, I lost another pound. Yay, I'm excited. You're excited to see that number when you achieve that weight loss. But with disorder eating, it's often these feelings of guilt, shame, anxiety, depression surrounding food and body image. Most people with disorder eating, their relationship with food is just not good. It's a toxic relationship. There you go. That's the word. So there's that experience of a sense of loss of control, especially with binge eating and the different behaviors. And there's negative self-talk and body dissatisfaction, body shaming. I don't like my body. There goes that mole, that chunk of fat that's hanging off. So that's the difference. Usually with the duration and persistence, that differs as well. Dieting is temporary when it comes to the healthier dieting, as I mentioned before. So you might diet for a particular event. You might have a certain deadline. I know, when I was preparing for my wedding, I had hashtag sweating for the wedding. Like I wanted to lose weight by the wedding, and it's kind of makes it a fun thing that way. You get pretty persistent. With disordered eating, it can be more chronic where you're into that unhealthy eating and it interferes with daily life or relationships. You're like, okay, I can't go out to eat with anybody because I don't want to eat and they're going to look at me and wonder why I'm not eating, or you're wearing certain clothes to cover your body because you're looking a certain way. You don't want them to say anything about you. So you see the difference between healthy dieting versus disordered eating. Hopefully, I've made that more clear. A couple of myths about disordered eating. Disordered eating is a choice. Myth. Myth. It's not a choice. Disordered eating, once it gets disordered, it's an eating disorder. It's a mental disorder. So it can develop for a lot of different factors. It could be genetics, environmental, psychological influences. There could be a lot of different reasons. It's hard to undo an eating disorder once it kicks into this is an eating disorder, this is a mental disorder. There's a lot of anxiety that goes in that, major depressive disorders, comorbid with it. There's a lot of different factors. So you can't just say, oh, it's a choice, just get out of that. Stop doing that because they can't. That's why they need help. That's why they need therapy. Some people get to the point where they need to be hospitalized initially because, like I said, eating disorders can cause issues with your body and your physical health. So some people need to be hospitalized in order to start to get their weight back up, start back with feeding. And if you're going to a point where you're restricting your feeding, for a long time, you can't just start eating a full meal. You could get something called refeeding syndrome, which is a metabolic syndrome, and that can cause issues. So you really need to be under the eyes of a professional to get back to normal eating. Myth. Only underweight individuals have eating disorders. Nope, it's not just anorexia. It can affect any weight, size, gender. In fact, people with bulimia tend to have normal body weight. People with anorexia tend to be underweight. But there's other eating disorders other than anorexia. Myth: eating disorders are just about food. Nope. Eating disorders involve a complex psychological and emotional issues beyond food, which includes that control I was talking about, includes this lack of self esteem and different coping mechanisms. There's poor coping mechanisms for people who have eating disorders. And with that control, for people who may have had some type of trauma or a lack of control or abuse in their life, some type of lack of control, having an eating disorder can make have them feel a sense of control. At least I can control the what goes in my body. It may not feel good that I'm restricting it, but at least I can control that. So that's where that control is, like to feel like they have a sense of control. Myth: eating disorders only affect young women. Nope. Fact: eating disorders can impact individuals across the lifespan from child to adulthood and any gender. Myth: disordered eating behaviors are easy to spot. Not necessarily. That's why I'm sitting here trying to explain to you the difference between a healthy body image, healthy dieting, and eating disorders. Because maybe you may not notice, like, oh, wait a minute, I am being far too restrictive. I've been experiencing headaches lately. I've been feeling nauseous when I'm not eating. I've been, there's healthy fasting, and then there's, oh, I'm not eating for 2 days straight. So intermittent fasting, there's a certain point where fasting isn't good for you, especially if you have any health issues. So it's not always visible and can include secretive and socially acceptable behaviors. Now, what are the psychological factors in the development of eating disorders? What leads to it? How does body image lead to disordered eating all of a sudden? Well, body image dissatisfaction. There's that negative body image. You're dissatisfied with your appearance, and it's can fuel this disordered eating behaviors of, okay, I'm just going to change the way I look and try to get that sense of control over how you look. And it's a rush. It's that lack of self acceptance that I mentioned, where you're just such in a rush for it to happen so fast that you're doing it in an unhealthy manner. So there's that low self esteem, trying to seek the validation, that control through the relationship with food and body weight. How's your relationship with food? What's your relationship with your body image? So you're vulnerable to eating disorders if you're seeking that validation and feel like this lack of control surrounding your body. Make it a journey, a joy on your journey to lose weight, not something that's an obsession. But if you end up in that, there's professionals that are here to help. Perfectionism, so there's that goes back to that control. That's a part of the psychological factors that lead to disordered eating. So striving for perfection and those rigid standards and rigid routines to achieve to achieve anything or to achieve that desired body weight, that can lead to a development of eating disorders when you're just so rigid and you look up and you're like, whoa, what am I doing? What's going on? I mentioned trauma and abuse, which past experiences of trauma and abuse, whether it's physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, that can increase someone's risk to developing eating disorders as well and affect your coping skills in attempts to regain control. There are social cultural influences. I mentioned last week the societal pressures, media messages, cultural ideas, movies, the idea of what who should be thin or masculine and what you should look like. That makes people internalize like what their appearances and what's normal for them, and that makes people develop body dissatisfaction. So comparing yourself to others, it's a matter of looking inward at yourself and who you are and developing that self-acceptance. And there's family dynamics. Some families just do put that on you. There's some parents that are really rude and mean and just say, "You look like this. You're too small. You should gain weight. You're too fat. You should lose weight." There are people that literally say that, or "Why are you looking? Oh, you done put on some weight." Maybe they don't realize what they're saying, but it's obviously leading to and disordered eating patterns. So it depends on how people communicate, parenting styles that can influence the develop of eating disorders. And particularly with people with a genetic predisposition, definitely it's going to happen. What are the types of eating disorders? I mentioned anorexia. That's the type of eating disorder that, for the most part, people understand and know and see in the media. That's the person who's below weight. They are excessively restricting what's going in their body. Even though they're hungry, they don't eat. So that's what the restricting is. They have a distorted body image. They think they're too big, but they're actually not, and they're just extraordinarily underweight and having the physical complications to the eating disorder and to having severe weight and malnutrition. Then there's bulimia. I mentioned that your weight can actually be almost normal in bulimia. It's like cycles of binge eating, following purging behaviors such as inducing vomiting, making you just eating, and then vomiting out the food, misusing the laxative, excessive exercise. So when I gave that example, that's an example of bulimia. And that's pretty much what bulimia is. So losing a sense of control and having this guilt and shame. I just ate this food. I got to get this out. So usually they might go under the radar because they're not looking a certain way where you notice like, "Oh, what's going on? Are they eating enough? What's happening?" And then there's binge eating disorder. So that's separate from bulimia. Binge eating disorder is strictly focused on the fact that the person binges. So it's recurrent episodes of uncontrollable binge eating when someone consumes a large amount of food in a short period of time. So, unlike bulimia, there's no regular compensatory behaviors. Compensatory meaning you're compensating for the food you just ate. So, in bulimia, you eat so much and you're compensating for that by vomiting. In binge eating disorders, there's no vomiting or purging behaviors trying to compensate for it, but you do have this feelings of distress and guilt still with that. So those are the 3 main ones. I mean, there's what we would say other specified feeding or eating disorder. It's just you have, like, a disordered eating pattern, but it just doesn't fall in the criteria of anorexia, bulimia, or binge eating disorder, so that's what makes it other specified. That's just a term we use when it doesn't meet criteria. So what are some ways to improve our body image? Talked about that last week. How can we develop a positive relationship with food? Going back to what food is meant to do. Food is a fuel for your body. Food is to help you have energy so you can work, so your brain can have alertness and concentration, so you can have healthy relationships. Food isn't really about how you look. If you think about it from a healthy standpoint or health standpoint, your mental health, your physical health, cater your body around that, not what it looks like. Yes, society tells us it's all about what it looks like, but really it's about what it's doing and what it can do in your physical health. If you have hypertension and losing weight's going to help that, great. But don't let that affect your relationship with food and how you think about your image. It's a matter of, okay, let me just do this. It's all right. You're not the only one to be told by the doctor that you're obese and that you have to lose weight, or that you're too thin and malnourished and have to gain weight. It's okay. And tell yourself it's okay. Get out of your own way. Seek help. See a professional. See a therapist to help you get through it. See a nutritionist to help you get through it. A gym coach or somebody. Whatever works for you, it's all different. It's different for everybody. It's not the same plan. So, if any of the symptoms or what I mentioned about disordered eating, if that sounds like you and you're like, oh, I have been kind of obsessed, reach out to me. Ask me a question. I'll point you in the right direction, or seek someone in your area where you are who you know. But I'm here to help. Come ask questions, make comments. Thank you for listening and thank you for watching. And again, I'm on every podcast platform, wherever your favorite podcast is, to help you on your journey to joy. Are you on your journey to joy? Think about that. How can you get on your journey to joy and what does that look like for you? Thank you for listening. I will see you next week. I'll be on a cruise, so hopefully you'll see me live from the cruise. Woohoo! Have a great week.